Hello and welcome back to the Playbase. Today I have a very intriguing guest, somebody who I met when I first moved down here to Florida and hopped on a call with her and was totally shocked because I had never heard of what she did before. So without further ado, Anastasia, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi, and thank you so much for welcoming me here. And I would love to share all my knowledge and learn more about also you. My name is Anastasia Boikova, and I'm pediatric occupational therapist, but I'm also a core specialist in MNRI method, which stands for Masgutova, Neurosensorimotor Reflex Integration method.
Everyone will be tested on this later. I don't even know what you just said. But please, because when you explained it to me, it really blew me away. As somebody who'd been in the field working with children with different needs for years, I had never heard of this. And when you explained it to me, it triggered something in my brain that was like, oh, I'd never heard of this. And this makes total sense. The science behind it is brilliant. And can you tell us a little bit about that science?
Yes. I graduated as traditional occupational therapist. I also my mind was blown away when I heard of this, but I didn't even heard it because I saw the difference in the patient that I was working with at that time. As a traditional OT, whatever we learned in school, you applied all your knowledge to help this. There was a girl, 7-year-old patient of mine. And I worked so long and so hard. I used all the tools that I got from school, and nothing was helping her with the bilateral integration. This girl could not use her two sides of the body at the same time. Like learning bicycle, like she could not get it, like climbing ladders in the park. And I was like, oh my God, there is something is missing. And I would go and really do my best, like to help her. And then her mom said, listen, we're just gonna take a break for 1 month and we're going to do some therapy and we're gonna come back later and we're gonna restart. So she's doing that and coming back, and that girl know how to ride the bike, how do the ladder, how improved in school, in math, in reading and writing and everything in 1 month. And I said, what magic did you do and where did you go? And she said, oh, but you don't know, this is a Russian scientist, doctor, and how come you don't know about her? She said, it's a Dr. Masgutova method. I was like, what? I never heard of that. And there was nothing in school about that. So then she explained it to me, and I started researching because I knew that something that I worked for a year was done in 1 month, and I could not believe it, how integration happened. And I was like, what? Why no one told us this in school? So the idea about the reflexes, okay? So the idea about reflexes. Reflex is an automatic response of our nervous system to specific stimuli. And the stimuli can be auditory, tactile, proprioceptive, vestibular, and this is our response of our nervous system. So those reflexes we're born with, all babies have them, and it's genetically given to us by nature. So usually by 1 year of age, those reflexes integrate and they become more complex movement, and we don't see them anymore as we see in babies. But what happened, many kids in today's world continue to have those reflexes present in their life. And each of the reflex has its own function. Like one reflex can be responsible for emotional response. One can be upper limbs, lower limbs reflexes. So there is different groups of them. And so by addressing and integrating those non-integrated primitive reflexes, we see changes in the nervous system, in skills and behaviors, in whatever the child needs.
So if I'm going to look back to what you said, we have reflexes within our system from birth.
Yes.
And as we develop in early childhood, we work through those reflexes. And I know there are things like some babies don't crawl, right?
Yeah.
And I know that there's a whole motion around the way the brain and the body integrate in the two parts of the brain and the body when you're crawling. For instance, I have a child who would bum shuffle, would not crawl, and then would end up walking. And that in and of itself, is that one of the reflexes in which you're referring to? Is there like specific developmental stages within the reflexes that we are targeting as we grow up, like for our babies, in order for those reflexes to be like met, those, or to be integrated so that they're no longer triggered by our nervous system?
Correct. And those neurodevelopmental movements are also, so the brain is very unique and it can compensate. So if the baby never crawled, the brain will compensate, but that pathway is not developed in the brain. And later in life or in school, we'll see the challenges that the child will experience. So the whole idea of the therapy is to repeat for the brain this movement, this reflex pattern as many times as possible to build that pathway. So as soon as that pathway matured and integrated, the nervous system improved, all the responses to the stimuli improved, and we see, the changes in the child with time.
So in terms of, like a lot of kids today, or people, I wouldn't even say specifically kids, are dealing with dysregulated nervous systems.
Yes.
I think society in general is very conducive to dysregulation. We're rushing. The news is all scary and bad. We hear about horrible things. We're afraid for our lives. All these different things, all the stimulation coming in is naturally dysregulating to our nervous system. And we also know that energies transfer, where you can feel my energy, you can feel my nervous system, I can feel yours. If I'm mindful of it, I can pay attention to the fact that what I'm feeling is not actually how I think I was feeling or that I am feeling. I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And energy does transfer. And so we also feel each other's energy, which can be further dysregulating or can be regulating depending who you're around. In terms of that part of the nervous system, does that stem from also these reflexes, or is that, more so just how our nervous systems respond to the chaos and the busyness and the, running around from point A to point B to all the way to Z in one day? Is that more that, do you think, or do you feel that stems from some of us in our own reflexes that haven't been integrated?
Correct. I like the explanation that Dr. Masgutova gives us when she teaches us. She tells us, okay, so imagine you are driving and there is a red light and you kind of slam on the brakes and you almost like a crash or like accident, but it didn't happen. So the fight and flight response, right? The cortisol comes, the stress hormone comes, but it takes you maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, all this process is happening, and then you're able to regulate yourself.
Correct.
So when this reflex, and also we have a lifelong reflex, even we grow up there is a lifelong reflexes that are present in our life for our survival and protection. So that is called fear paralysis reflex. So for example, in this situation with a car, when you drive, you're able to self-regulate yourself with it kind of a normal period of time. And if we take kids, for example, on a spectrum who are, we'll say many of them in a constant fight and flight, when they have a dysregulated or they have a hypersensitive fear paralysis, and they are, everything that's coming from the environment to them can be considered as stress, and that fear paralysis is nonstop popping the cortisol, and they are constantly in this. So our goal is to help them integrate that, regulate that response, regulate that nervous system through that techniques that we use, and as a result, we see the improvement.
That's really interesting. Can you give me an example of how you, I guess, trigger those reflexes or work on those reflexes? Let me give you an example. let's say I have a child who is highly anxious, who has a lot of trouble regulating in highly stimulating environments, like loud environments, like let's say we're at a concert, which can be dysregulating to any human on the planet, but becomes impossible for that person to feel that they can exist in that space without like covering their ears or needing to leave. Or I have somebody who in a classroom setting at every transition, let's say every time we transition, everybody gets up. I have to figure out where all my things are. I have to collect all my things. And now I need to go and I'm going to be in a different space. And every transition feels highly dysregulating. And so that person might engage in behavior, whether that be, so, you know, if they're responding with fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, they might run if they're going to go into flight, or they might engage in a fight. They might engage in a behavior that is attracting a lot of attention because they're fighting with someone or arguing, or they might not move, not be able to move because they're in freeze. So is that like, what would be a particular reflex that you might work on for a child like that? And maybe there are multiple.
So for the child that has that auditory sensitivities, we'll work with auditory reflexes. And that actually, so you said what kind of stimuli we give or what kind of technique. So that is the auditory fear paralysis that is present for them. We'll work with auditory system stimuli, which will be like all the techniques are very gentle and it's tactile. And it is can be gentle tapping on specific fear paralysis points in the body. That is, you know, Dr. Masgutova developed and discovered. So we'll go with the repetitive movements of the same thing that the nervous system will, first of all, stop responding to that stimulus with time. Of course, it's not right away, but it's a lot of work around the ears, around work about on tapping on temporal area. There is different protocols that exist for to support those individuals. The main idea also, sometimes kids are not even ready for this type of work in terms of they are not able to tolerate touch. So let's say we want to work with it, but they are, so we start super slowly. Even at times we teach parents, if the child is asleep, start doing techniques while they're sleeping. It's still working. Many times kids fall asleep during our therapy, and it's the most beneficial because the nervous system is most regulated and processing the touch. So the touch will through the skin, through the different skin receptors, we are changing the brain. We're changing the brain to slow down by applying proprioceptive deep touch and hold it for much longer. So each of the technique that we applying, it's not like right away. It's not fast stroking. It's like a deep, long holding there, standing. So the brain wants to move on. Brains want to run. We're just like, no, just keep staying here and like just relax. So with some patients, with some clients, I'll do those techniques, tactile techniques, for the first months until I will start the integration process. So the many developmental delays, many of the sensory or emotional or anxieties or fears is due to improper developed neurosensorimotor system and due to unintegrated primary reflexes.
It's absolutely mind-blowing to me, to be honest. Having worked with occupational therapists, with speech and language pathologists, psychologists, other behavioral interventionists over the years, this is something that was brand new to me. And when you explained it to me, I just felt like this is a science that I didn't fully understand, but even within the explanation makes sense to me. And if I think about my own children, if I think about my clients over the years, I could think about so many whose reflexes that I didn't didn't realize or know about how this would really impact them. And even when you're describing this proprioceptive feedback, right? As an occupational therapist, this whole mind-body connection is a really important part of your work, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember learning from an occupational therapist years ago how to give deep pressure and squeezes to help regulate the nervous system. And I remember at first, I was a dancer. So I've always understood the mind-body connection in a different way, not through intervention, but through how movement impacted my mind, my emotional state, my nervous system regulation. I studied how dance impacted mood when I was graduating from university, because I was like, wow, this is really, I feel like dance was therapy for me. I wanted to be a dance therapist. Like I really understood this mind-body connection, but never through the intervention of another person coming in and figuring out what my body needed or what my brain needed my body to do or to experience. So when I started working with OTs and, occupational therapists, I was like, wow, this is the most fun job. You get to work in a gym. You get to do so much fun, like so many fun things, but they all have intention. They all are there for a specific intention, which is the part that I didn't fully understand until I worked in there for a while. And I watched it like magic. I watched a child go from clenching their jaw, so much tension in their body, so distressed, to offering them deep squeezes and watching their body melt before my eyes. Like literally just go, like we tell people, take a deep breath. But when you are up here, you're holding your breath. You can't take a deep breath. And you telling me to take a deep breath makes me want to knock you out. Don't tell me to breathe right now. But if I just allow for that feedback and if they allow for it, and if that works for that child, heavy lifting, proprioceptive feedback, also I've seen work wonders. So just like those elements that you touched on, if you haven't tried this, I would urge you, if you have a child who is seeking feedback, is highly dysregulated, and you're allowed to do this is with consent only, and always. We ask for consent before we ever do something like this. Even just the hands. And I remember actually we had a mutual client where you were showing me finger squeezes, where I was like, I knew the squeezes down from the shoulders down to the hands, but then you were showing me how to do it on the fingers. And I was like, oh, this is new. This is so cool. I'm learning something new. I love that. And I'll give you an example. Like the other night, my daughter really had trouble sleeping. She's like, I don't know if it was because of my homework, or I don't know if it's because my shows are coming up. I have 10 dances in my head and these many songs, and I'm thinking of all these things. And she just said, she's like, can I have a hug? And I held her. Nice. And she was like, yeah, that's what I needed. Can I have another one? And it's like that, even that feedback, both the physical part of it, the proprioceptive feedback, and the energetic exchange is regulating.
But it's beautiful that she asked for that, because how many kids that we
don't
work
know
with
that. Yeah.
And they don't have a bonding. And bonding, by the way, is also a reflex. And how many kids are born with some complications or C-section, or many times, and that first minute when they put a baby on the mom's chest, that's the bonding. And many times kids missing that now. And as a result, we see that this bonding, that inner peace and inner connection with your mom is not there. And no matter, it takes time to integrate that as well. And as a result, those squeezes is a part of bonding. We're imitating how the baby was inside of mommy's womb, and that pressure, we kind of imitating that. And with the positive affirmations, with the positive, so that someone can at least feel a little bit of this bonding, we do that for them. And it's actually number one homework for all parents that we work with, that 5 days a week, every day before going to sleep, that is a bonding reflex that we work on.
Wow, that's so beautiful. As someone who really fell in love with attachment theory, it makes a lot of sense to me. And we also say that in order to have a calm nervous system, you need to feel safe in your space. You need to feel safe in your body. You need to feel safe in your existence in the world. And I think also predictability, stability, patterns, like all of those things help for a calm nervous system. If I'm thinking in like a behavioral lens, right? And behavioral lens, I think about predictability. I think about consistency. I think about attachment theory when I'm thinking about the nervous system. And I think that makes total sense. I actually am thinking about somebody that we've been speaking to recently whose child was in the NICU for several weeks. And I remember one of my closest friends had a preemie and her child was in the NICU, and I came to visit, and I know that they very much honored this, holding your baby was actually a really important element of it. But I'm wondering if that also impacts the reflexes or this bonding experience being in the NICU. And when somebody has this period of time that is not their choice, that child and that family isn't choosing that path, what are the things that they can do to support them with the attachment style, with the bonding, that reflex that they maybe didn't get enough of? Maybe they didn't totally miss it, but they didn't get enough of it because of circumstances outside of their control.
Yeah, just work with the bonding reflex. That's number one that we will be doing. And working with neurotactile system, that through that it helps reorganize the nervous system and hopefully regulates. And we don't know what is the main reason of non-integrated primitive reflexes, because when we do our assessments as a specialist in this method, it can be OT, PT, speech therapist, can be psychologist, massage therapist, educators. Some parents become a specialist. So it's not necessarily that some engineers, I know like people from all kind of backgrounds, they become a therapist using this type of method. And to help with bonding is to keep, like with the discipline, with repetition, keep reminding the body and reorganizing the brain. So because we don't know why those reflexes not integrated, it can be because of the birth trauma. It can be while during the pregnancy, environmental situation, or baby was born and some kind of infection happened. We don't know why it is. But I guess it's not so important
the why,
but if we know that after a certain age those reflexes are still present, we know each of the reflex has its own function in the body. So Dr. Masgutova had research in Poland. They had a big fund, I think, from the government of Poland, and they were researching while working with the hand upper limbs reflexes, what part of the brain will be affected. So all of the hand reflexes, they will be probably associated with fine motor skills, speech, and many, many more other things. Or there is a lower limb balance, grounding, all kind of gross motor skills. And so we know how those reflexes affecting the brain. So even if something happened during birth, or let's say a child comes to us when they are 1 year of age or 2, and we see that those reflexes still present, we will be working with them in a particular way, just every day, Monday through Friday or 5 days a week. That's how long we work with them, for 3 months, to see the changes, for example.
Wow.
So we keep repeating the same movement, keep going until the brain improves and we see the changes.
So when you work with a child, do you work with them, let's say, for an hour every single day? Does it matter is it something you train parents to do so that you're coming in for a certain amount of time and then parents do it? Like, for instance, my daughter does vision therapy, right? And in vision therapy, you can go in multiple times in order for them to do the program, or you can come in once and then they send the homework for you to do at home with very specific instructions and tools for you to do. And so I do some of it with her and she does some of it there. For MNRI, How does it work? Does a practitioner need to come to you? Do you need to go to a practitioner? How often does someone need to be seen? Is there like a specific point when someone graduates from the program? Like, is there a point when someone's like all their reflexes are met that they need to developmentally based on an assessment? How does that work?
Mm-hmm. So usually, so if in cases that are, let's say a child is going to school, have its own schedule, able to walk, talk, and, independent, but needs support in school.
Right.
There is no neurological conditions, diagnosis, and things like that. So in that situation, when the child also can do its own exercises, your daughter can participate actively. So it's, a different story. We do provide a home program. We do the assessment. I show parent how to do the home program. I start the integration, and then I ask parent to support me, same way as you do in vision therapy. But the situation when a child is not talking, walking, can be a very different situation. Also, there is a term that is called pathological and dysfunctional reflexes. In case of severe cerebral palsy, traumatic brain injuries, things like that, or like a very complicated cases that I ask parents and I refer them to go to Orlando to see Dr. Masgutova. She has a very specific computerized assessment that she assess the reflexes at very specific, like she tells the parent exactly, like very detailed information about the child based on the reflexes. So in those situations, parents go for this assessment with her. They come back with very specific instructions to me because Dr. Masgutova trained us. And to become a core specialist, you spend many hours. It took many courses, many hours until you're fully skilled and knowledgeable. So they come back with very specific instructions that I can implement here. Many times parents need help with difficult and complicated cases.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of, let's say somebody's coming to work with you, they're working with you for an hour, 3 to 5 times a week. When do you know that it has been effective? You see the behavior change. What is it that indicates that it's been effective?
So usually we work in this kind of like segments. We work 2 months or 3 months. We're integrating, and then we take a break, or we can reassess, and then we restart again. So usually for children that has no neurological diagnosis, we say the integration can take from 3 to 6 months.
Right.
So then you'll see that the body is no longer responding to stimuli. There is many criteria that we look into, and we know, but for parents, they will know they start sleeping, their system is much calmer, their behavior change, their skills, they're learning better, the movement better, and they are just transforming into a different child.
Wow.
But there is a lot of research on Masgutova method website, and the research, for example, for kids on the spectrum, there is a research has been done that the proposal is to do 2 years of integration.
Okay.
And it's actually everything is written down. What are usually dysfunctional reflexes for kids on the spectrum that we see, how the work impacting those, and how long it's going to take to integrate, and what are the changes and the improvements. So some parents love the research. So they said, "Oh, Anastasia, but we saw this research." And so they take responsibility. And I was like, wow, I'm so proud of you that you did that. So many parents don't know anything, but some parents like go ahead of time and they look for research and they seek information.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So before we started the show, you shared with me that you've taken a little pivot in your career. Can you share a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. I was, this was this year when, you also work with parents, and parents, there is a different parents. There is parents that we can kind of divide into groups. There are very busy parents that they would like for a therapist to come in. And I have mothers telling me, Anastasia, I'm a mother. I'm not a therapist. So I would love to pay money to therapists and for therapists to come and do all the work. And then there is parents who are very active participants. Well, they have maybe a choice or possibility like this in life, and they fully are part of the program, and they are active participants. So then many times I would provide education to parents, and I share that with them, but not everyone would follow. Or they would say, oh, it's difficult. Oh, and my child is not doing this with me as they doing it with you. It's very different. And I get it because I also have children and I know how it is.
Yeah.
You get a tutor for your child or you get a therapist because you need help in something that you're not skilled. And that's why there is a therapist for that. But I slowly, I start seeing like myself not giving enough, not credit, but enough, not believing that if I will educate a parent or I will show them the reflexes or I will teach them about home program, that they will not do it at home, not implement, because they know that Anastasia is working on reflexes and it's okay, I don't have to do my homework. But actually the magic of the work is about the bonding with the parent. It's about doing the work 5 days a week for the nervous system to improve. So if you're investing in this therapy, if you're investing, and I tell them, do not start the therapy unless you know you have this 3 months and you can be an active participant of it. Because it is possible to pay someone. And I said, maybe you have a nanny caregiver, or if you cannot do it, but I'm asking every day before going to sleep, do the deep pressure, embracing squeezes or the finger or a simple things, 15, 20 minutes. So if parent is not ready for that, then I tell them maybe we will not see results as we want.
Quickly, right.
So my transition started happening by me seeing if I will see and believe in parent, I believe that they really can be an active participant in child's life, that I will see more results. And that's what starts happening. Parents start participating more. So now, like you said, oh, how often do you see? I would see people 3 times a week or even 4 times a week. But now I see the patient, I see the client, I do the assessment, I create a home program, and I tell them I can be there for you for 10 sessions. I can start the integration. I can teach you everything that you have to do at home. And then for the next 2 months, you will be doing the homework. I can be available online. You can call me. I can be always there to support you, but you need to do the work. So I want parents to actively participate in this.
I want to really put an emphasis on something you said. You said that what shifted for you was believing in the parents.
Yes.
And as somebody who works with children and parents and educators, who does a lot of training and coaching, including therapists, all of my staff, it's so interesting how, as an adult, especially someone in the therapeutic field, it is, at least for me, it is so easy for me to believe in the kids I work with, to see their potential, to see their light, to see all that, and also equally to see the challenges you face in working with the adults with them. I find that you can have, like you said, you can have parents who are gung-ho, yes, I'm here, teach me everything. You can have teachers like that. You can have schools like that. You can have therapists like that. And then you can have people who either don't have the capacity. The capacity could be a time piece. The capacity could be, I'm so burnt out. This is a conversation I had with my husband in a previous podcast, is the burnout of parents is so real.
Yes.
Like their nervous systems are shot. Their nervous systems were shot before they had kids. Then they had kids, and now they have kids who have extra needs, and now their children are dysregulated and they're dysregulated. Their whole world feels so dysregulating, and now I have an extra task. And that can feel like somebody took a little pin and popped my bubble, and now I can't handle it anymore.
Yes.
I've had clients go through lots of challenging things in their personal life.
Yes, divorces.
Yes. Loss, divorce, moving, even child loss, like so many different things that they have experienced that can shake your world.
Yep.
But you're so right. In the same way that I look at a child and I think, God, I believe in everything you can do. I believe in the beauty of your abilities. I believe in the infinite possibilities within you. That we need to look at the adults, the parents, the caregivers, the educators, the therapists in the same way, because it is the energy we give them also. Because if we walk in, and I always say this, if you walk into a classroom and see your student, or you see your client, or you see a child is incapable, they are.
Yes.
You have put a boundary that they cannot cross because you have set them, you've put a ceiling over their head, and that's it. But if you actually break down that ceiling and you see them as infinitely capable, in the right environment, with the right supports, you see that they are.
Yes.
And it is the same for every human on the planet. But it is so much easier to see that in a sweet, innocent child, right? Than to see it in someone who's spent years accumulating trauma and behavioral responses and putting up walls and having all these ideas that have been reinforced over time that make it that this is how I view the world. This is how I live in the world. And I've been doing it for 30, 40, 50, 20, however many years. And now you're going to tell me I have to do it differently. And there's equally a piece, I think, that is extra challenging for parents versus it can be for therapists and educators. It's this ego piece and this mourning piece of like, oh, I'm doing it wrong. And it's not about right or wrong. It's there's a saying, when you know better, you do better. When we know more and we know better, then we should do better.
Yes.
It's like when I learned about the nervous system as a behavior analyst, I couldn't pretend I didn't know about it anymore. I know it. I understand it. I can't now go into ABA and pretend like, well, we're not going to think about that because I can't take data on that. No, I am going to think about that because it's a part of the scientific being you are. Mm-hmm. It's a part of your humanness, right?
Yes.
And there's such a beautiful thing in that your shift was, I'm going to believe in these parents and I'm going to empower them. I do a training with a psychologist. Her name is Dr. Sharon Arbel, and we do professional development for educators, and it's called Empowering Educators.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And when we walk in, we're not walking in thinking you don't know and you're incapable. We're walking in with, you are incredible, and here's even more. Here's something else. Here's a different way for you to look at it. Or here's an acknowledgement of what you have been doing and some more, gold, fruit for thought, some more magic for you to use. And that in and of itself creates a totally different learning environment. So I can imagine that making that shift, and I think every therapist listening to this needs to hear that, because it is so easy for us to see the possibilities in our clients.
Okay, well, I'll tell you more.
Tell me.
You know what? There is a law of resonance and reflection. So I was thinking, so if I have a lot of parents who are reflecting to me this potential, that they are not doing the work with their children, and they kind of making me feel that they have no potential to perform this home program, I was like, maybe they're reflecting in me that I don't believe in my potential. So I kind of started working with my own self. I was like, no, I believe in my potential. Like, I see those possibilities and potential in me that I can help that child through believing in their parents. So that was kind of my approach. And the transition that happened for me, that I told them, I know for sure that this type of therapy, I spoke with so many. There is PT, OT around the world. There is right now MNRI family conferences happening in Australia, Bali, Indonesia. Just had a Hong Kong, in Netherlands, in Croatia, in Poland, in Bulgaria, everywhere in the world. We're like all over the world. There is thousands of therapists that using this method because it really works, and we really see changes. We see families who is with a method for like severely autistic children, and then a couple years later we're seeing very like a different human being, and those kids who learn how to use spellers, and with the spellers they telling us this is the most profound effect on my body because now I can feel my body. Thank you so much for doing this body work. They tell us we cry.
I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. If you have not watched the documentary on spellers, and you work specifically with a nonverbal community or individual or somebody who's not vocal, I urge you to watch it. It is, I cried. It was so beautiful. And it's so interesting because when I was trying to understand the difference in the approach, I was like, wow, it's not a fine motor pointing. It's not this, I need to find and point on a device. It was a whole body.
Yes,
like
a whole body.
So much goes into it, and it requires a tremendous amount of patience. But the outcome is wow.
And those kids who finally have a voice to share with the world about abuse, about everything that they go through when people think that they are not normal, they are not understanding anything, and everything that they share. I was doing actually MNRI work on the massage table with a teenager who mom said, is it okay? Because he now have also a speller session with his like whatever team. They hold meetings, and the teacher was kind of reading it out loud, and they were just typing it, spelling it. And the depth of conversation, the IQ, the way they talk to each other, these 18-year-old kids that are nonverbal, I could not believe it. I was like, what is happening right now?
So I'm from Toronto, and there's a famous autistic individual in Toronto. Her name is Carly Fleischman. And I remember years ago watching, they had this whole news documentary on her because she was not vocal. She didn't speak, but they taught her to type. And the typing machine had a voice. And her father, for the first time, heard her thoughts. And I can't imagine. Like, it makes me, I really have to like regulate not to cry. I can't imagine having a child and never knowing their thoughts and hearing it for the first time, hearing their experience of the world for the first time. She wrote a book, and I used the information from the book to educate people who don't understand the autistic community, some of their repetitive behaviors, some of the way they experience the world. I use some of how she explains it from one individual's perspective. But then there's equally, I have heard so much and read so much about the individuals who are non-vocal, who know things they've never been taught, who know languages that they could never have been exposed to, who have access to information that far exceeds what would be expected of their IQ or anything they've ever been exposed to. And, you know, there's this saying, I remember I had a girl in my second grade class, and I went to a French school, and the teacher would say, "Elle est sur la lune," which means she's on the moon. And she would like announce it in a really disrespectful way. And I remember it to this day because of how often she would say it. And this child was not here, right? Mm-hmm. And we talk about kids going into their own worlds or living in an alternate universe. And my belief, I don't know about yours, and from the information I've gathered and research I have, is that they're not going to an alternate universe. They're more deeply connected to our universe in a way that we can't tap into. And so their ability to acquire information and be here and hear it all and learn it all and be a part of it all is magnified. However, their ability to express it is what is suppressed.
Yeah.
And giving that voice an opportunity to shine is, I don't know, it's, I think, the most remarkable thing. When I watched Spellers, it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It really, really did.
And many parents don't know about it also. I mean, I'm sure, there is a parents that know, but I think it's coming. Actually, Spellers, it is part of Florida based. I think they are on the other side of Florida.
Like on Tampa?
I think in Tampa. And they are very close working with MNRI, and they do educational videos and webinars for people to join, because it all connects, because you need to feel your body in order to. So, that is amazing. And knowing the outcomes and bringing this tools and knowledge that we have for parents, and it is a lot on their plate, I know.
Yeah.
But that's the work we're doing,
I'm a firm believer that we all come with our own karma, our children included. We're here to learn something. And one of the things that you mentioned earlier that I really want to touch on, and it's something I remember talking about in a professional development at a preschool. And it was that when you're triggered or when something is happening, that it is reflecting something within you. And that's a really hard thing to process when you are dysregulated from being triggered, right? When something is really upsetting, or someone says or does something, or an event is happening in your life and you're like, why me? Or why is this happening? Or why is this happening again? Everything is a lesson, is a reflection for something within you, which is something I think most people don't do what you did. And is incredibly honorable that you didn't take it as, I'm going to go and help these parents and fix what's happening there, because that is, I think most people in a healing profession and a therapeutic profession, our ideology goes into, figuring out, how can I help other people? How can I save?
Yeah.
I've been told I have a save the world mentality many times in my life, and I do. But what I've learned through my own healing work is that there's no saving anyone else.
Yeah.
It starts within you. There's no healing other people. It starts with, there is, but it starts within you.
Yeah.
When something is being shown to you, instead of saying this and this needs to change outside of me, it's what do I need to see within me, which is such a deeper conversation to have. I remember mentioning this at a training for hundreds of preschool teachers, and the whole room kind of, went silent. And one teacher said, so you're saying when one of my students is triggering me, I need to look within myself what it's showing me about me. And the whole room kind of giggled as if what she said was so absurd or uncomfortable, I guess is really more the word. And I said, yes, I'm so happy that's what you heard, because that's exactly it. And the whole room went silent because I was like, yes, that is actually it. Because as a parent, as an educator, as a human interacting with other humans in the world, whether you're driving your car or you're walking the street or you are in your own home, we're interacting with other people. And when it's upsetting me or triggering me or frustrating me, I have to look at, what is the origin of that? What is that? Mm-hmm. And if I can look within myself, whether that be as a businesswoman, running a business, growing my business means looking a lot at myself, raising children. Oh my God, I've never had to look more at myself than as a mom.
Our biggest teachers, partners, parents, and kids.
Yes. My husband, 100%, I say, is my biggest teacher. I would say, if not equally, comes second my children. probably equally. I think my husband is just able to really vocalize a lot more and explain things that make sense. Whereas with my children, I have to really do a lot more like deeper inner work to figure out what is that within me. And being a business owner is equally the same thing. Yep. It is like I have to look in the mirror, not literally, but could be literally, all the time to figure out what is that within me and what an impact that makes on your clients. Like the way that you changed your belief in yourself empowered your clients to believe in themselves.
Yep, exactly that.
And that's, people will say, like, I remember working with a teacher who I love so much, and I'd use ABA in the classroom. And she'd be like, do it, do the thing. And I would like use a reinforcement system, like a marble jar or something, and prime the kids of the expectations. I would use ABA in a very naturalistic way. And they would all follow the instructions. They would all follow suit. She's like, it's magic. And I said, no, it's science. And I've really, I said it to my hairdresser also. I said, you're a magician. He's like, no, baby, it's just color. I said, no, it's science. I don't understand it. And magic is really just science we don't understand. And you were talking about this whole reflection. And there are actual neurons within our cells that are their job is to reflect. That is their entire job.
Yep. And I also want to bring to the word of magic is the word of neuromodulation. And neuromodulation, we can say that MNRI, the reflex integration, is a form of neuromodulation, that it helps to modulate our nervous system, helps with regulation. I had an experience also for a couple years. I was owner of MERT, MERT, magnetic resonance therapy. That is a transcranial magnetic stimulation for the brain that was developed for PTSD soldiers that were coming back. But then recently they find a way to support neurodiverse community with that method, with that therapy. So the difference of how MERT was different from TMS. It was individualized approach because we would do the EEG.
Yeah, I remember seeing it actually when you were, I remember the location.
Encephalogram,
Yes.
And so we were measuring and seeing how the brain, so the alpha brainwave is what we're targeting for us to be in this calmer state of mind, being able to regulate ourselves. And all of the kids that were coming for therapy, the kids on the spectrum, they had non-developed or sometimes would be absent alpha brainwaves in their frontal lobe or the parietal lobe. So I saw how, before that, I didn't even know about this. But when I start seeing child after child after child coming and seeing that alpha brain, the brain activity in their brain is different. It's like they are sleeping, walking brain. It's so bizarre. And I'm like, so this child is coming, let's say, for traditional OT or traditional ABA, and we teach them something to their cortex. Don't do this or do this, and teaching them how to compensate. But what is the cause root of the situation? How can we holistically help them through neuromodulation? So that method was really cool, but some brains would not respond. Some brains are amazing. They respond, and we saw the goal was to retrain the brain waves of the child so they can pick up on that alpha frequency. And as a result, the neural connection in the brain, in the frontal lobe, will develop. They will start self-regulating better, eye contact, speech. Like, it was really cool results for many individuals, but for some it would not.
It wasn't effective.
Yeah, not
and
effective.
You don't know who it would be effective for or not.
So you cannot promise, anything. Right. So that neuromodulation was cool. It was an expensive treatment, but I found that it is a part of the puzzle. Also, for some it works. For some, ABA works amazingly. For some, MNRI is amazing. Like people like blown away. I know that it works for all my clients, and that's why I'm keep doing it. Otherwise, I would not be here. I also know that our organic, holistic living style, removing environmental toxins from the kids, educating parents about, grounding, walking barefoot, go to nature, go to see sunrise, sunset, like all those things are part of the puzzle. And there is no simple magical pill that we can eat. And
although people try.
And those kids chose us to be their parent and to do the work, this inner work that we're doing.
It's part of our karma. Yeah. It's part of what we're here to learn.
So it's, I think what I want to see change in the world, that the people will have access more to all this as a, not something that they have to search for, dig for, pay crazy amount of money now. Everything is expensive in today's world, but for parents to be able to afford all this, all this, like, why can't we have like a government program that put it, as a big, some kind of fund that everyone can have access to this, so we can change this and help people.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. I think access to services and knowledge about different services, which is a big part of this podcast, spreading information and providing people with tools, but also a safe space to feel heard and seen and acknowledged, whether as a therapist, educator, or as a parent. All of those, I think that we live in a very complex world. People are a lot more dynamic and complex than most therapies have allowed for the understanding. And I think that all the information that we have acquired through research and through new technologies and new ways of thinking have allowed us to understand the depth and complexity and allow for the space for healing and for treatment and for not changing or fixing, but more so providing tools and resources and a different pathway for them. Anastasia, I am so happy that we've had this conversation because I know I learned so much. If somebody wants to get in touch with you, whether maybe they have follow-up questions or they want access to your incredible knowledge or resources, how can they contact you?
They can contact me on my website. The name of the website is wholesometherapiecenter.com.
Okay, we'll leave it in the information.
Thank you.
Before we go, I like to ask a question. What would you leave our listeners with? Something for them to think about, something for them to sit with. If you were to leave them with a thought or a question, what would you leave them with today?
I would say believe in your possibilities, your potential, and never stop dreaming. And just keep growing and changing, and do your inner work, do your shadow work in order to help your children.
Amen. Thank you so much, Anastasia. What a pleasure.